God's chosen ones, a final warning from God. This message was sent straight to you. You wake up again at 3:17 a.m. The house is quiet, but your spirit isn't. There's a trembling in your chest, like something invisible is pressing against your soul. You try to name it. Stress, maybe? Fatigue, a heavy season? But deep down, you know better. This isn't random. You didn't just click on this video. This moment right here was scheduled by heaven, because God is shifting something in the spirit. And you, yes, you, are part of the reason why. Type 777 if your spirit whispered, "This is for me." You're not here by chance. You've felt it for a while now, haven't you? Something in the air has changed. You can't explain it, not to your friends, not even to yourself. But it's there, that strange stirring, the emotional heaviness that comes and goes without warning, the sudden need to disconnect from noise, from people, or from everything that once made sense. It's not burnout, it's not coincidence, it's awakening. This is what it feels like when you're being pulled out of the crowd. This is what it means to be marked by heaven. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. Your spirit does. That's why you're still here. That's why you couldn't scroll past this moment, because something inside of you is rising, something the world tried to bury, something God planted long before the pain ever arrived. And now, it's time. Not time to perform, not time to impress, but time to align. You're not just going through a hard season, you are in a divine transition. Heaven has drawn a line in the sand and whispered your name. This isn't just a message, this is your confirmation. If your spirit just exhaled, it's because your soul finally found something it recognizes. Part 1. The whisper before the wave, flickering candlelight. A journal sits half-written beside a half-drunk cup of coffee. No one told you awakening would feel like grief. You're losing interest in what once excited you. Conversations feel hollow. Crowds feel loud. Even your favorite music doesn't hit the same. And late at night, something in your chest starts to ache, not from fear, from recognition. You are being summoned, not by people, not by pressure, but by purpose. You thought it was anxiety, but it wasn't. It was God whispering louder than usual, the unease. It's how heaven starts the conversation. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me. John 10:27, and you've been following, even in the fog. You didn't need a map, just a knowing. That ache in your gut, that I don't belong here feeling, was heaven telling you, I'm shifting your scenery. You're not falling apart, you're falling into place. But alignment rarely feels gentle. It strips, it shakes, it silences everything that isn't real. And then, you hear it, the whisper before the wave. Wind blowing through trees, paper scattering in slow motion. Sometimes God doesn't shout. He stirs, he removes, he closes doors so quietly that the silence feels like abandonment. But that silence, it's where he speaks loudest. If your relationships are shifting, if your spirit feels tired for no reason, if life feels too quiet to be normal, you're not losing your way, you're being positioned. Would you still trust God? If he spoke only in silence, your heart may not have language for it yet, but your spirit does. You were born to feel moments like this, moments where the natural goes quiet, because the supernatural is starting to roar. This is not a storm. This is not a breakdown. This is the whisper before the wave. And you, chosen one, are right on time. Type 777 if this spoke to a storm you couldn't name. Part 2. Separation before elevation. A worn Bible lies open on a kitchen table. Outside, the wind picks up. No storm, just a shift. You keep asking God why people are leaving. Why the ones who once loved you barely check in. Why the energy has changed in rooms that used to feel like home. But here's the truth. No one told you God separates before he elevates. Elevation sounds exciting until you realize it means fewer people can breathe the air where you're going. Not everyone can carry the weight of your next season. Not everyone has the oxygen for the altitude of your anointing. So heaven began to quietly remove. No big fallouts, just distance, no loud breakups, just silence. Come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. 2 Corinthians 6:17. You weren't abandoned, you were extracted. Because where you're going, distractions can't come. Think of Esther. She didn't start in royalty. She was hidden, orphaned, misunderstood, unseen. But it was in that hiddenness that heaven prepared a queen. And when the moment came, she didn't fit the room, she transformed it. Because the anointing doesn't ask for permission. You keep wondering, why am I alone? But beloved, even Jesus had to pray alone in Gethsemane, a bird flying just above a storm cloud, alone but untouched. The higher you go in the Spirit, the quieter it becomes. Not because you're forgotten, but because you're being fortified. Every goodbye you didn't understand, every door that shut without closure, every sudden shift in connection wasn't random, it was refinement. What if loneliness isn't punishment, but proof that you're being trusted with something holy? And now, God is calling you to stop mourning what left and start preparing for what's next. Because separation was never about loss. It was always about making room. You've been set apart, marked, preserved, not to be hidden forever, but to rise at the exact moment heaven commands now. Top 444. If this felt like your season finally explained. Part 3. When the silence screams the loudest. A clock ticks in the background. You're sitting in your car. No music, no phone, just that ache. The kind of quiet that feels too loud. You've been praying, asking, waiting, but heaven went quiet, and now the silence is screaming louder than your thoughts. Not because God left, but because something sacred is happening that your ears can't pick up, only your spirit can. You're not being ignored, you're being examined. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Habakkuk 2:20. When a teacher gives an exam, they go silent. They stop answering questions, not because they don't care, but because they want to see what you've already learned. This right now is your wilderness test, and you've been doing better than you think. Think of Jesus. 40 days in the desert, no crowds, no miracles, just silence and spiritual warfare. Before he was announced, he was attacked. Before he was revealed, he was refined. Alone. That's why this season feels like a fog with no voice. Not because you've done something wrong, but because heaven has you in a holding pattern of preparation. The silence isn't punishment, it's positioning. You've already outgrown shallow words. Surface-level sermons don't reach you anymore. You're not looking for noise, you're craving divine direction. But to hear a whisper, you must quiet everything else. Would you still trust him? If the next instruction came through a whisper instead of a miracle. And here's the miracle, you're still here. Still standing, still showing up, even in the silence. That tells me everything. It tells me your roots are deeper than you knew, that your heart didn't just want blessings, it wanted alignment. This is the season of listening, because God isn't trying to impress you, he's trying to entrust you, and he can only entrust those who don't flinch in the silence. So pause, exhale, be still. This silence is sacred, and soon, the silence will break with a sound only the prepared will recognize. If you're still here, still watching, still waiting, type "I'm listening" in the comments below. That's your faith speaking louder than fear. Part 4. The Hidden Battles. Heaven watched late night. The glow of the fridge light. You stand there not hungry, just overwhelmed. The kind of tired that sleep can't fix. You've cried in silence, smiled in rooms where your heart was breaking, prayed prayers no one else will ever know about, and still, no applause. No one clapped for your consistency. No one praised you for staying kind when you had every reason not to, but heaven did. You didn't go unnoticed. You went uncelebrated on earth, but heaven wrote every moment down. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Psalm 56:8. Let that sink in. Every tear, every time you didn't fight back, every time you chose love when anger would have felt better. God saw it. God recorded it. God remembered it. You've walked through warfare in secret, showered with tears no one knew about, gone to work, gone to church, gone through the motions while wondering why it all felt so heavy. But, beloved, that heaviness, it was spiritual weight training. God wasn't punishing you. He was preparing your endurance for the next level of glory, because the oil you carry now came at a price. No shortcuts, no public platform, just private pressing, like Hannah weeping in the temple, misunderstood, misjudged, but heard by God, and her pain birthed a prophet. What if the pain you carry is the price of prophetic birth? No one claps for the one who didn't quit. No one posts about the woman who forgave in silence, the man who worshiped through bankruptcy, the mother who kept praying when her kids walked away. But heaven takes notice. This chapter of your life, it's not about fame, it's about faithfulness. God has been watching to see if he can trust you with the next level, not based on what you show the world, but on what you survived when no one saw anything at all. So if you feel unseen, it's not because you're forgotten. It's because heaven is building your reward in secret. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you openly. Matthew 6:6. If you've survived something silently, type, he saw it in the comments below, because he did. And he remembers. Part 5. The wilderness wasn't punishment. It was proof. Dry desert terrain. Footsteps in the sand. No music, just wind, just silence. Just you. You looked around your life and thought, why does everything feel barren? No fruit, no progress, just long aching silence. But what if I told you this wasn't a delay? It was a divine detour. The wilderness wasn't God turning his back. It was God turning your heart toward him. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. Matthew 4:1, not by accident, not by punishment, by the Spirit. Even Jesus needed the wilderness, not to prove something to God, but to prove something to himself. You thought God had forgotten you, but he was fortifying you, testing your dependence, revealing what couldn't go with you into your next season. Think of Moses, 40 years tending sheep in a desert before he ever led people through one. Think of David, anointed king in a field, then sent right back to feed sheep. Think of you, anointed but isolated, promised but hidden, not cast aside, set apart. Because wilderness seasons don't expose weakness, they refine purpose. God didn't lead you here to break you. He led you here to strip the noise so only the real could remain. Would you still follow God if the next step looked like isolation instead of elevation? In the wilderness, there's no audience, just roots, just faith, just you and God. It's where your prayers stopped being pretty and started becoming real. It's where worship wasn't a song but a survival instinct. And maybe that's why this last season hurt so much, because it wasn't about what God was doing to you. It was about what God was doing through you in secret. Every day you didn't give up. Every time you didn't retaliate. Every moment you kept walking when quitting would have made more sense. That was proof. Proof that you are ready. Proof that you were never meant for shallow waters. Proof that God can now trust you with rain because you survived the dry place. He brought you into the wilderness to humble and test you, to see what was in your heart. Deuteronomy 8:2. This was never punishment. This was qualification, and now you're coming out. Not broken, not bitter, but blazing. And what's waiting on the other side of this desert purpose? Power, and the kind of peace that only comes after the wilderness has finished its work. Type "I survived the wilderness" in the comments. If you know this was your path, your testimony is coming. Part 6. The shift won't be announced. It will be felt, the quiet before a storm. Wind brushes across a field, leaves tremble, but the sky is still. No trumpet, no spotlight, no flashing sign, but still, you feel it. That sacred pressure behind your ribs, the invisible pull on your schedule, your habits, your thoughts. You don't know how to explain it, but you know something is shifting. This isn't just a new season, it's a spiritual migration. God isn't moving things around you, He's moving things in you. See, darkness covers the earth, but the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 62. The world is trembling with uncertainty. But for the chosen, the shift feels like elevation. Not because everything looks better, but because everything feels aligned. You wake up at strange times, 3:33, 4:44. You keep seeing patterns, numbers, names, dreams you can't shake. People are walking away without explanation. Doors are closing, not in anger, but in quiet clarity. And while others are panicking, your spirit whispers, this was supposed to happen. The shift won't be posted, it won't be viral, it will be personal. God doesn't reveal destiny on billboards. He speaks it in whispers, in room corners, in car rides, in the space between distraction and decision. Would you recognize God's move? If it came without a miracle, Ruth didn't know she was walking into destiny when she chose Naomi. It was just obedience that day, a simple yes that shifted history. And maybe today, your obedience is doing the same. So don't dismiss the small shifts. That urge to delete certain contacts, that sudden desire to clean your space, that overwhelming craving for silence. These aren't coincidences, they are divine indicators. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. The shift is internal before it's external. The peace you're feeling isn't because everything is fine. It's because your spirit finally caught up with what heaven's been planning. This is the hour where discernment matters more than talent, where alignment matters more than opportunity, where presence matters more than performance. Because the wave is rising, not in noise, but in knowing. And you were built to ride it, to feel it before it ever showed up in the natural, to adjust your life before the world even noticed. That's the mark of the chosen. That's why you've been restless, because heaven was already pulling you into place. If you've been feeling the shift with no language for it, type "I feel it" in the comments. Let your faith speak before the facts do. Part 7. The cost of the calling. You're sitting alone in your car. Rain taps gently on the windshield. You grip the steering wheel not from fear, but from the weight you can't explain. No one really tells you this part, that the call of God will cost you everything that kept you comfortable. You've been trying to obey, trying to stay soft in a hard world, trying to keep loving when it keeps hurting. And sometimes you wonder, why is it so heavy, God? Why does it feel like the warfare won't let up? Here's why: you carry weight in the spirit, and weight always attracts resistance. I will put them into the fire, I will refine them like silver, and test them like gold. Zechariah 13:9. Chosen one, you are not being punished. You are being purified. God is burning off what was never meant to hold your calling, because what you're about to carry requires clean hands and a clear heart. The oil you're about to pour is too precious to leak through unhealed wounds. So the pressure increased, the battles intensified, The quiet became heavier, not to break you, but to refine you. Think of Joseph, favored, but thrown into a pit, anointed, but forgotten in a prison. Yet when the time came, every betrayal, every tear, every night alone became the staircase to the palace. You keep asking, why does it feel like I'm being stripped? Because God is unclothing you from old identities, so He can robe you in authority. Would you still say yes? If you knew the anointing would cost your comfort, you weren't made to blend in. You were made to bear fruit in famine, to stand when others sit, to speak when others tremble, to lead when no one else will move. But heaven can't anoint what still seeks applause. To whom much is given, much is required. And you have been given much, not in titles, not in recognition, but in spiritual responsibility. You see what others miss. You feel what others numb. You carry what others can't explain, because you're called to intercede, not just exist, to disrupt, not just survive, to build, not just bless. That's why the pressure has been so personal, because your assignment is generational. God is preparing you not just to lead, but to lift others into alignment. This isn't just your calling, it's your legacy. If you've felt the cost but still choose to carry the calling, type still yes in the comments. Heaven sees your surrender. Part 8. When you're prepared in obscurity. A dim room lit only by a desk lamp, scribbled journal pages, a calendar with quiet days circled. No applause, just whispers. No one saw the nights you stayed up crying. No one cheered when you chose peace instead of revenge. No one clapped when you forgave what should have destroyed you. And yet, you didn't stop. You kept praying, you kept building, you kept believing. Because real preparation never begins on platforms, it begins in secret places. Your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. Matthew 6:6. You've been hidden, not because you're forgotten, but because God is still forming the foundation. He didn't need you to be seen. He needed you to be solid, because what He's building on you next requires roots so deep that not even success can shake you. David killed lions in the field long before he faced Goliath in public. No stage, no audience, just obedience. You've been in that same field, fighting shadows, conquering shame, learning how to worship without music, how to war without followers, how to trust without timelines. You were trained where no one clapped so you wouldn't fold when they finally did. Would you still keep building? If God told you the crowd wouldn't show up until after it's done, you weren't passed over. You were preserved, because spotlight without surrender leads to ego, but hiddenness births holy hunger. Nehemiah rebuilt the wall stone by stone, while enemies mocked and plotted, but he didn't come down. I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. That's you, doing a great work in silence, being tested without being recognized. But your reward is being prepared, not to perform, but to carry glory. And when the moment comes, when heaven finally says, now, it won't be your talent that sustains you. It'll be your secret history with God. The hours no one saw, the tears no one tracked, the prayers no one praised. Those moments made you unshakable. If you've been training in obscurity, type, I've been hidden, but I'm ready. Heaven knows how long you've waited. Part 9. This is not a storm. It's a spiritual rebirth. Thunder rumbles in the distance. You're sitting near a window watching the clouds shift. You're not afraid. You're expectant. The pressure, the tears, the breaking. You thought it was a storm, but it's not. It's a spiritual delivery room. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 35. What you're feeling isn't the end. It's the crowning. The contractions before the calling bursts forth. That tightening in your chest, that stirring in your belly, that sudden flood of emotion for no reason. It's labor. Heaven is pushing something through you, not for show, but for shift. Think of Hannah, mocked, misunderstood, crying so hard the priest thought she was drunk. But when she broke open in God's presence, he gave her Samuel, a prophet, a nation shifter. The very thing that had been locked up in her pain became the promise. That's you. You've been carrying something spiritual, and now it's pressing. Uncomfortable, exhausting, but necessary. God doesn't waste this kind of pain. He repurposes it, reforms it, rebirths you through it. Would you still praise if you knew your pressure was proof that promise is near? This isn't destruction, it's delivery. And the enemy has been panicking because he knows what happens when a chosen one gives birth in the spirit. Chains break, cycles end, generations shift. Before she goes into labor, she gives birth. Before the pains come upon her, she delivers a son. You're not late, you're right on time. The contractions, their confirmation. God is realigning every area of your life, shaking what must fall, sealing what must stay. And when it all feels like too much, that's when you're closest to breakthrough. So, breathe, chosen one. Push through the pressure. Lean into the promise. This is not a storm sent to destroy you. It's the midwife of your next mission. Type, I'm birthing something holy. If you know this pain has purpose, heaven is closer than it's ever been. Part 10. You were chosen to lead through the shaking. A trembling earth, headlines swirl, people scroll. The world looks for answers, but heaven looks for you. The world is shaking, systems are collapsing, people are losing their footing, but you're still standing. Not because you're the strongest, but because your roots go deeper than fear. You weren't built for comfort, you were crafted for kingdom movement. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. In him I take refuge. Psalm 18:2. Others are panicking, you're discerning. Others are crumbling, you're still praying. Because while the world watches chaos, heaven watches the ones it anointed to carry clarity. And you were always one of them. Think of Deborah. When the nation froze in fear, she rose with fire. Not because she had power, but because she had clarity. She heard God when others heard nothing, and her courage gave a nation direction. That's what this pressure has been producing in you. Divine clarity in a fogged-up world. God has been sharpening your voice, refining your eyes, training your hands for spiritual battle. You weren't trained for a platform. You were trained for impact. Would you still lead if it meant being misunderstood by those who never saw your oil being pressed? The shaking isn't your cue to sit back. It's your moment to stand up, not in pride, but in holy authority. Not to be loud, but to be light. You are the lighthouse in this storm, the calm in the chaos, the voice in the whirlwind, the answer to someone else's silent prayer. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 60:1. You are not here to blend in. You're here to lead others out through your wisdom, your prayers, your posture. While others scroll, you build. While others doubt, you declare. While others fear, you stand firm. Not because you're perfect, but because you said yes. And heaven can do more with a yes than the world can with all its noise. This shaking won't take you out. It will reveal who you truly are. A remnant, a carrier of clarity, a leader for such a time as this. If you know you've been chosen to lead in this hour, type, I was born for this. Let your spirit declare what your heart has always known. You were chosen now, rise, stillness. Your face lit by a single candle. The noise has faded. It's just you and God. Can you feel it? The weight in your chest, the burning behind your eyes, the trembling in your spirit. That's not emotion, that's confirmation. You weren't drawn to this video because you were curious. You were drawn because you were called. Many are called, but few are chosen. And now, you can no longer unknow it, unhear it, unfeel it. because God just confirmed what your soul has suspected for years. You are not lost. You are not late. You are chosen. You've survived the silence. You've endured the pressing. You've obeyed in the wilderness. And now, you are standing on the edge of your activation. This isn't about hype. It's about heaven's appointment. You are being commissioned not someday, today. What if everything you've walked through was God's way of making sure you were ready? So now I ask you, not with pressure, not with performance, but with reverence. Will you step into it? Will you carry what others dropped? Will you rise when others hide? Will you build while others scroll? Because the world doesn't need another celebrity. It needs you anchored, anointed, and aligned. He who began a good work in you will carry it to completion. You are not just watching revival. You are part of why it's happening. So here's what I invite you to do. If your heart is trembling right now, if your spirit is weeping and finally whispering yes, type "I receive the assignment" in the comments. Mark this moment. Seal it with surrender. And if this prayer and word pierced something deep in you, write, "Still I rise below." Because now you walk with the clarity of the chosen. This is no longer a message. It's your marching orders. You were hidden for a reason. You were tested for a purpose. You were chosen for this hour. And now, you rise.